Bill Maher has hosted an HBO show for 25 years, and whatever you might want to say about him, one thing has been constant, one thing is absolutely certain, that Bill Maher, whose mother, I believe, is Jewish, or his father, I believe it's his father, actually. It's one of his parents who is Jewish, has always been a very outspoken, unyielding supporter of Israel. I mean, the kind that actually says things like the Israeli military is the most moral military in the world. One of his main causes is the evil of Muslims. He's like exactly like Sam Harris, who also has a parent who's Jewish. And it just so happens that Sam Harris, who was raised Jewish and always loved Israel, just so happens to see Israel's enemies, Muslims, as the world's greatest enemies. Same with Bill Maher. That's like one of his few consistent views. And he assembled a panel on his HBO show Friday night, in part to talk about Israel and Gaza, filled with two other people who are at least as hardcore Israel supporters as he. One of them is Van Jones, who has a left-wing reputation because he worked for Obama, because he's black, because he opposes Trump, but he's been wearing a yellow ribbon on his shirt for every day for the last 2 years to symbolize his love and support for the hostages in Israel. Van Jones, you might remember, was given $100 million by Jeff Bezos about 10 years ago, in case you think he's some sort of radical threat to power centers. He's a very outspoken supporter of Israel. And he was also there with Tom Friedman, who spent much of his career based in Jerusalem. Tom Friedman is married to a woman who is a billionaire heiress of the Singer sewing machine fortune. So he lives life as a billionaire. He's been as dedicated to Israel, probably the single most influential pro-Israel media figure for the last several decades. The only other exception possibly being Jeffrey Goldberg, who's the editor-in-chief of The Atlantic, who, by the way, despite being an American citizen, went and volunteered to work for the IDF, Jeffrey Goldberg did, and worked in one of those dungeons where they keep Palestinians. Jeffrey Goldberg actually worked there as a prison guard. Just to get a sense for how pro-Israel, let's call it, and uniformed the American media is. So this was the very diverse viewpoint, diverse panel. Bill Maher, Van Jones, and Tom Friedman of the New York Times, all talking about Israel. And Van Jones and Bill Maher were kind of having a debate about whether Americans are becoming more pro-Palestinian and more opposed to Israel because of DEI indoctrination by left-wing colleges, or whether it's for some other cause. It can't possibly be because on their own they've gathered information and made up their mind that Israel is actually the bad guy in the region, that we shouldn't be financing Israel. Can't be because of that. So they had a debate about who's manipulating people in America to become less supportive of Israel. And here was how that debate unfolded, culminating with what Van Jones and Bill Maher and Tom Friedman and their audience thought was an extremely funny joke that Van Jones had obviously rehearsed and then unleashed.
But isn't part of that because we had to fold everything into critical race theory, and somehow the Middle East became part of,
I see it differently. And I love this conversation because I think people, those of us who went to college, give a lot more credit to college courses for how the world works than I do. This is not about critical race theory on college campuses. This is about Iran. Iran and Qatar have come up with a disinformation campaign that they are running through TikTok and Instagram that is massive. If you are a young person, you open up your phone and all you see is dead Gaza baby, dead Gaza baby, dead Gaza baby,
right.
Diddy, dead Gaza baby, dead Gaza baby. That's basically your whole feed. That's not DEI. That is a geopolitical adversary that is deliberately trying to divide the West against itself.
That view is not.
Now, there's so many bizarre things about that. Obviously, the most bizarre being is that you would make dead Gaza baby your punchline of your joke and just repeat it over and over with such joy, such pride in thinking that you did something so witty. Like, imagine the sociopathy necessary to just, as we've all watched babies being blown up every day, starving to death, subjected to the worst horrors, to be so sociopathic about that you construct what you think is a joke around just repeating dead Gaza baby, as though it's some annoying meme on the internet as opposed to an actual horror that the United States government is paying for. But also what's so bizarre about this is that liberals like Van Jones were convinced for the longest time that all American problems, all American debates, all American divisions were due to Russia's disinformation campaign. Russia is doing a disinformation campaign. They're turning us against one another. People aren't really angry about this or about that. They're not really angry about the disappearance of the middle class or the deindustrialization of their communities or the flooding of it with fentanyl or the massive gap in wealth and income between the richest and the majority. The disappearance of economic security caused by the financial. No, they're not really mad about that. They're just deceived and manipulated and propagandized by this evil foreign power, Russia. And this is exactly now what he's doing. He's taking that same moronic framework and applying it to the reason why people are turning against Israel. He's saying, oh, it's not because human beings are empathetic to the Palestinians and angry about what Israel is doing. They're not angry because we see our politicians constantly making pilgrimage to Israel and pledging allegiance to Israel and talking about how to support Israel. And it's not, as Bill Maher says, because left-wing colleges are propagandizing. No, it's because Iran and Qatar, not Israel and AIPAC, but Iran and Qatar are involved in a foreign influence campaign through TikTok and Instagram. The reason why there are so many videos of babies in Gaza and children in Gaza and people in Gaza that Israel has killed is because there are so many people in Gaza that Israel has slaughtered in the past 2 years. That's why you constantly see it, because that's what's happening, and we're paying for it. And people are talking about it, especially young people. But imagine do you see the seamlessness with which Van Jones takes what had been the prevailing view in the United States? And if there's anything about Van Jones that you will know for sure, is despite his previous radical past, he used to be someone who actually was a 9/11 truther who questioned the official story on 9/11, had to actually resign from the Obama administration when that was discovered. He was considered kind of like a real radical on the left, and now he's just the most reliable vessel for conventional wisdom and establishment dogma, which is why he got $100 million from Jeff Bezos. But so he took this moronic conventional view about how Russia was contaminating us with disinformation and then just seamlessly applied it to why people are turning against the United States. And in doing so, made a big joke. His big punchline was about dead Gaza baby. Just saying it over and over and over as kind of a joke. And obviously people also laughed at the part about Diddy, but that was the joke that was constructed. And Tom Friedman and Bill Maher loved it because they were like, yeah, people are being deceived into hating Israel. They don't hate Israel for any valid reason, but only because they've been deceived by social media. And thankfully, Larry Ellison, the biggest single donor to the IDF, has now bought TikTok so that there'll be no more of that. No more Israel criticism on TikTok. Just IDF propaganda. The same person who just made Barry Weiss editor-in-chief of CBS News. And also Instagram, where Van Jones says this big anti-Israel campaign is taking place, is owned by Meta, the controlling shareholder of which and CEO and founder is Mark Zuckerberg. Mark Zuckerberg is presiding over a massive Iran and Qatar-driven disinformation campaign to turn the nation's youth against Israel. I don't think that's very persuasive. But anyway, a lot of people reacted to the disgusting audience laughter and the whole panel laughter and Van Jones's sociopathic and humorous reference to dead Gaza baby, that he repeatedly apologized over the weekend. He posted several tweets apologizing, including this one on Saturday, quote, I made a comment on Real Time with Bill Maher about the war in Gaza that was insensitive and hurtful. I apologize. The suffering of the people of Gaza, especially the children, is not a punchline. I'm deeply sorry it came across that way. What's happening to children in Gaza is heartbreaking. As a father, I can't begin to imagine the pain their parents are enduring, unable to protect their kids from unimaginable harm. I'm praying and working for an immediate end to this war and for peace and safety for every family caught in the path. I'm truly sorry for the pain my words caused to people who are already suffering more than anyone should. You'll notice the word that's missing, which is Israel. He's like, children are dying in Gaza, people are suffering in Gaza. This like passive form of the formula of the construction with no agent that's actually causing the killing and the suffering. Here's another response from Dr. Omar Suleiman in response to this video posted, truly disgraceful and vile, Van Jones. I'm sorry dead Gaza babies bother you so much. Maybe tell the people paying you to put lipstick on a genocide to stop killing them. And then Van Jones replied, yeah, I messed up on this one. And I'm sorry, I was trying to raise awareness about foreign adversaries creating chaos online, which is undermining democracy everywhere. But what I said was easily misunderstood, and the way I said it was flat out insensitive. Babies are dying every day in Gaza. Why are they dying? Who's killing them? Babies are dying every day in Gaza. Nobody should dispute that fact or make light of it in any way. To the people living in fear and burying family members every day of all ages, I apologize. I really don't know why people apologize when they said what they actually mean. Van Jones is vehemently pro-Israel. He doesn't wear anything representing the dead children of Gaza on his lapel when he goes on CNN or when he went on Bill Maher. He wears a yellow ribbon for the dozen or so, 20 hostages left in Gaza, including members of the IDF. Even in those apologies, he makes clear that he won't even mention the word Israel in a critical light. He's too afraid to. And I mean, the idea that you're worried about foreign influence, but will never talk about the foreign influence exerted by Israel and AIPAC. I mean, even like the most politically normie people understand that the foreign influence predominantly comes from Israel. U.S. politicians aren't going to Tehran or to Qatar to make daily pilgrimage. They're not giving press conferences about Iran and Qatar every day. They're not sending billions of dollars to Iran and Qatar. They're not deploying U.S. forces in defense of Iran and Qatar. They're doing that all for Israel. Members of Congress aren't removed almost automatically when they criticize Iran or Qatar. They're removed when they criticize Israel, because that's where AIPAC pours his $15 million. There are no lobbying groups that support Iran and Qatar and remove members of Congress from failure to support it. So even there, it's just so deceitful, the idea that I'm worried about foreign influence, but I'm going to talk about Russia and Qatar and Iran and not the actual main source that shapes American media and American politics and U.S. Congress and executive branch policy, which is Israel, shows what a complete and utter fraud he is. And I don't think he should have apologized for that joke. That joke absolutely represents his worldview, which is that there are suffering in the world that he cares about, which is in the country to which he's loyal and that has rewarded him very much, which is Israel, and the country and the place that he doesn't regard humans as really human, which is Gaza. Thanks for watching this clip from System Update, our live show that airs every Monday through Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on Rumble. You can catch the full nightly shows live or view the backlog of episodes for free on our Rumble page. You can also find full episodes the morning after they air across all major podcasting platforms, including Spotify and Apple. All the information you need is linked below. We hope to see you there.